Let's do this.
Pablo Escobar was on the run. The Colombian government was after him. Pablo...
Boom! Boom!
Pablo Escobar was on the run. The Colombian government was after him. The DEA was after him. Rival cartels were after him. He was the most wanted man in the world. And by December 1993, he was paranoid, isolated, and running out of places to hide. And that's when he made one crucial mistake. He stayed on the phone too long. You see, every time Escobar called his son, Juan Pablo, the authorities were tracking the signal. They had this elite group, the Search Block, trained by U.S. Special Forces, who'd been hunting him relentlessly. And on one particular afternoon, Escobar was talking to his son when the trackers zeroed in on his location. They'd found him. Within minutes, the Search Block surrounded the house. Escobar and his bodyguard, Alvaro de Jesus Agudelo, known as El Liman, freaked and tried to escape across the rooftops, barefoot, not enough time to even put on his shoes. But they weren't quick enough. The confrontation happened fast. The elite trackers hunting him took aim with their weapons. Bang! El Liman went down first. Then Escobar took a round to the torso, and then one to the head. Search Block wasn't messing around, and had to make sure they would never have to search for him again. But some people believe that final shot didn't actually come from those hunting him down. It was done by Escobar himself, feeling that he'd rather end things on his own terms than be captured. Either way, at around 1 p.m. that day, Pablo Escobar's body lay on the rooftop, and an era had come to an end. The man who'd once been worth...
Bro, I ain't gonna lie. Obviously, drug dealing ain't cool, but Pablo Escobar was one of them ones. You feel me? I might... Bro, I don't know, bro. Maybe I'll hit one more, bro, but... Alright, bro. We'll see, bro.
Billions had his life ended abruptly on a random rooftop, desperate and barefoot. So how would you guess Griselda Blanco, aka the Godmother, aka La Madrina, aka the Black Widow, met her end? Well, what if I told you she was also known as the pioneer of motorcycle drive-bys, and that she had her life cut short in an ironic twist of fate? Are those enough hints for you? Are you catching on yet? Here's what happened. Back in the 1970s and 80s, she built trafficking routes from Colombia to New York, Miami, and California, moving product at a scale that hadn't existed before. She devised new smuggling methods using shipments, vehicles with hidden compartments, extensive distribution networks, and the use of motorcycle drive-bys in Miami to keep her competition in line. Then she got caught and served nearly 20 years in federal prison. In 2004, she was released and deported back to Colombia. By this point, she was in her 60s, and she'd settled into a quiet, simple life in Medellin, Colombia. She'd cook for her family, buy groceries, normal stuff. Then, on September 3rd, 2012, Griselda was at a butcher shop in her neighborhood, and that's when two guys pulled up on a motorcycle. The passenger got off the bike, walked up to Griselda, and let loose, with multiple hits at close range. Griselda...
Bro, I just think it just make him dance like that. I ain't gonna lie, though. She probably killed somebody in their family and shit, because that's the only reason why they come after her as old lady Griselda.
Down right there, right outside the butcher shop. The two guys sped off, and that was it. She was 69 years old. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds, and the motorcycle guys just disappeared. No last words for Griselda. No arrests for her assailants. Just done. Right there outside the butcher shop, in the same way she had taken out so many others. This next one is bizarre, like genuinely one of the strangest endings in organized crime history. But before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Okay, back to the story. This is Amado Carrillo Fuentes. El Señor de los Cielos, the Lord of the Skies. This is the guy who literally bought a fleet of Boeing 727s to transport product from Colombia to Mexico. A man who, at his peak in the mid-90s, was moving something like $200 million worth of product every week. But by 1997, he was on the most wanted lists, and the Mexican and U.S. authorities were closing in. So Amado came up with a plan. And honestly, it might have been kind of brilliant. In theory, he was going to completely change his appearance through plastic surgery. Not just a little nip and tuck. We're talking full facial reconstruction, liposuction, the works. Change his face, change his body, and disappear into a new identity. A fresh start. So, on July 3rd, 1997 in Mexico City, Amado checked into a private clinic, Santa Monica Hospital, under a fake name. He'd hired a team of surgeons to perform multiple procedures simultaneously. The surgery went on for 8 hours. And then, something went catastrophically wrong. The official story is that Amado went into cardiac arrest during or...
I think, bro, I don't think you're supposed to have that many surgeries back to back. That's probably what it was, bro. His face was cut up too much, bro. Like, I don't know. And it's in the 90s, bro. That's a lot.
Immediately after the surgery, his heart just stopped, and he was gone. But that wasn't the end of it. When there was a delay in identifying the body, on account of his face being bandaged and swollen from the surgery, and 2 of his surgeons turned up in oil drums encased in concrete, people started questioning whether Amado really passed away, or if he actually faked his demise, and the body was someone else's. Eventually, the Mexican government ran tests and confirmed the fingerprints matched. So, I guess in a way, Amado did face the consequences of his actions.
Alright, bro.
Kun Sa ran the Golden Triangle, that lawless border region between Burma, Thailand, and Laos, with his own private army of 15 to 20,000 soldiers. He also provided about half of the world's supply of H. Being such a player in the industry, how his life ended might surprise you. When the authorities started closing in, Kun Sa didn't go on the lam or out in a blaze of glory. He surrendered. He simply negotiated a sweetheart deal with the Burmese military government. And just like that, with amnesty, he essentially walked away. All he had to do was give up his operations, disband his army, and stay a good boy. Not a bad deal. And so, after surrendering, Kun Sa lived a quiet life in Burma, not in hiding, not out on the run, just in relative seclusion in Yangon. He ran legitimate businesses. Real estate, ruby mines, transportation. The guy went from being one of the most wanted men on the planet to essentially being a businessman in plain sight.
This is how you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to keep doing all that drug dealing. You're supposed to move on after you do it. You know what I'm saying? He did it right.
The U.S. kept pushing for extradition, but the Burmese government refused. So Kun Sa just lived. Stayed in his villa, conducted business, gave occasional interviews, painting himself as a misunderstood freedom fighter. He lived until he was 73 years old, when he passed away from natural causes. Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha had his back up against the wall with nowhere to turn. The Colombian National Police had him surrounded, and not even his own private army with thousands of paramilitaries could save him. That's how it goes when the Colombian government suspects you of eliminating a presidential candidate, Luis Carlos Galán, and declares an all-out war on cartels and their leaders. Gacha was known as El Mexicano, leader of the Medellin cartel, and obsessed with Mexican culture, wearing cowboy hats, listening to ranchera music, hence the nickname. Anyway, as Colombian police and military moved in and had him cornered, they were like, "Gotcha." But Gacha didn't surrender. He ran. Him, his 17-year-old son, and his security team tried to escape, fleeing by truck through banana fields toward the coastal town of Tolu. But the authorities had helicopters and serious firepower, and they weren't going to let him slip away. Gacha and his men tried to use their weapons to fight back, but they were massively outgunned. The exchange was short, and within minutes, it was over. Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha was taken out right there, along with his teenage son and 5 bodyguards.
See, I'd be mad because it's like, bro, dad, bro, why you put me in this situation? Just like, do something else, bro. You getting me killed because you owe drugs and shit.
Adios, El Mexicano. At their peak in the 90s, the Cali cartel controlled about 80% of the world's product flow, and Gilberto Rodriguez Orejuela ran it like a Fortune 500 company. But don't let the business suit fool you. This man destroyed countless lives and communities while playing the respectable businessman. He was so calculated, sophisticated, and business-minded, they called him the chess player. But when authorities nabbed him and sentenced him to 30 years in a U.S. federal prison, it was checkmate. And that's where the story ends. He served 17 years at the Federal Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina, before passing away from colon cancer and various health complications from old age at 83 years old. He'd been sick for a while. His lawyers had actually tried to get him a compassionate release because of his deteriorating condition, but it was denied. So his life ended in prison, in a medical unit, probably surrounded by guards and prison medical staff rather than family.
Worst way to go out, too.
The chess player spent the last 27 years locked up, sick and powerless. He avoided the violent end that took so many other kingpins, but even kings run out of safe squares. Ramon Arellano Felix was known for being the absolutely fearless enforcer of the Tijuana cartel. The Mexican and U.S. authorities had been hunting him for years, but Ramon kept slipping away, until he didn't. It was February 10th, 2002, during Carnival in Mazatlan, a beach resort in Mexico's Pacific coast, and the place was packed with tourists, families, and crowds of people celebrating. Ramon was there with some of his people when, by chance, Mexican police spotted him. Federal police moved in to apprehend the kingpin, but Ramon wasn't having it, and so Ramon did what Ramon always did. He fought back. And he wasn't empty-handed. Right there, in broad daylight, during a festival with civilians everywhere, Ramon and his security team pulled their weapons and started using them against the officers. The police returned the favor. It was chaos. Tourists scattering, people screaming, trying to avoid the rounds flying by. The confrontation was intense, albeit brief. Ramon was hit multiple times and went down right there on the street. It was over in seconds. The enforcer who'd terrorized Tijuana for years went out enforcing right to the very end. He was 37 years old.
Damn, he wasn't even
Years
old.
later, an interesting twist popped up. Ismael El Mayo Zambada, Sinaloa's shadowy godfather, said in a U.S. courtroom that actually the Sinaloa cartel greenlit the police to go after Ramon. According to El Mayo, the cop who approached Ramon at Carnival wasn't just some random badge. He was on the payroll and ordered to light Ramon up. We may never know how it really went down that day at Carnival, whether it was really a random stop or a setup. But either way, the Carnival party was over for Ramon. So Frank Lucas, the guy from the movie American Gangster, had a crazy life running Harlem in the 1970s, importing product directly from Southeast Asia and making millions. But his ending? Completely different from what you'd expect. After cooperating with the authorities in the 70s and doing time, Lucas got out and just faded away. He moved to New Jersey, lived quietly, and stayed out of the life. By the 2000s, he was just this elderly man giving occasional interviews and watching Denzel Washington play him in a movie. But age catches everyone, and by 2019, he was 88 years old and his body was simply wearing out. On May 30th, 2019, Frank Lucas passed away from natural causes.
That's
no
not bad
drama,
at all.
No violence, no mystery.
See that shit like that. These niggas be lucky, bro. They made it out, and 90 is a long time to live, bro.
He just passed away peacefully, surrounded by family at his home in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. Just an old man reaching the end of a very long life. That's it. No shootout on a rooftop like Escabor. No motorcycle hit like Blanco. No operating table mystery like Amado Carrillo. Just old age. Arturo Beltran Leyva, El Barbas, the Beard, or as he styled himself, El Jefe de Jefes, the boss of bosses, was one of the most powerful figures in Mexican organized crime. The Beltran Leyva cartel was a serious force, and Arturo was known for his brutality and his absolute refusal to show weakness. By late 2009, the Mexican Marines, with U.S. intelligence support, were hunting him aggressively. They'd been taking down his network piece by piece, and the pressure was immense. On December 16, 2009, the Marines got intelligence that Arturo was holed up in a luxury apartment complex. The Marines surrounded the place and moved in. What happened next was an absolute war. Arturo and his security team, heavily armed, well-trained guys, decided they weren't going to surrender. When the Marines breached the apartment, they were met with intense opposition. We're talking heavy-duty automatic weapons and handheld explosives. It was a full-on firefight inside a residential building. The battle lasted for hours. Arturo's men fought room by room, floor by floor. The Marines had to essentially fight their way through the apartment. Civilians in neighboring units were trapped, terrified, listening to urban warfare happening next door. Eventually, the Marines cornered Arturo and his remaining bodyguards in one section of the apartment and picked them off one by one. But they kept fighting. Finally, Arturo Beltran Leyva was hit by multiple rounds. He went down in that apartment, surrounded by shell casings, destroyed furniture, and the bodies of his bodyguards. The Mexican Marines had beat the final boss. Game over. When Helmer Pacho Herrera went to prison in 1996, he was a sitting duck. He had once controlled New York distribution for the Cali cartel, but that all changed in Palmyra prison. On November 6, 1998, Herrera was kicking the ball around with other inmates on the prison soccer field. A regular activity, nothing unusual. Just another day behind bars. Enter Rafael Angel Uribe Serna, who wasn't an inmate. He had gained entry to the facility by posing as a lawyer visiting another inmate. He approached Herrera during a break in the game, greeting him with a friendly hug. What happened next was less than friendly. Uribe pulled out a weapon and unloaded on Herrera, striking him primarily in the abdomen and head, 5 to 7 times. Other inmates scrambled away as it all went down right there on the field. Prison guards eventually intervened and rushed Herrera to the prison infirmary, but the damage was too severe. The wounds were critical, and Helmer Pacho Herrera was pronounced deceased shortly after. He was 47 years old. Uribe, the attacker, later claimed Herrera had threatened his family, making it a personal revenge, though investigations point to orders from a rival cartel in retaliation for Herrera's earlier attempt on that cartel's leader. Either way, there on the soccer field, Uribe's goal was for Herrera to kick the bucket. And he won. Or did he? After the act, Uribe was immediately overpowered, beat up by inmates, leaving him wheelchair-bound, arrested, and transferred to a maximum security prison in Bogota.
Damn.
Some years later, after his conditional release, Uribe himself was taken out, likely in retaliation tied to ongoing cartel wars.
My nigga was in a wheelchair, bro.
Well,
alright, chat. You know, it was good talking to y'all. Peace. Love. And always remember.
In my thoughts, I've been fighting demons, ain't no invitation. When I lose my shit, it's not cool, bad situation. Why am I wearing all these faces? In my truth, I'm a bad man, can't keep up with the evasion. Gotta stand on business and stay solo. Still praying for the days where the niggas ask for photos. In my head, am I the problem? Bad thoughts, yeah, I caught them. Bloody fists, yeah, I fought them. Road to riches, I'm on the bottom. So do I take my time and just fight my temptation? Or do I let go all my problems? Can I say salutation?